And it got really dark and terrible because they were a couple. They had another roommate. They got in this screaming match. So they were fighting, like sort of throwing shit. Like, oh man, the place was disgusting. It was just like cans everywhere.
Worst gig ever with your host Geoff Garlock on Revolver. Oh.
Drums are fun, and you'll hear them in this. Because this is Worst Gig Ever, I'm your host, Geoff Garlock. This is Worst Gig Ever on Revolver. This is where we talk to musicians about the worst shows that they've ever played, how terrible it is to be in a band. And today is no exception. We got the dudes from Red Fang, and they have some amazing stories, amazing judgments that didn't work out, amazing animals. Animals will attack. That's the main thing you're going to learn from this. So listen and check out all of our other old podcasts on Revolver if you have not, and at worstgigeverpodcast.tumblr.com for all of the archives or on iTunes. Get into it. It's terrible being a musician. So, usually just start off with any sort of worst gig story. Can be bad show, bad job, anything connected to that world.
Okay. Well, I guess off the bat, probably one of our first tours, we played a club that no longer exists in Salt Lake City, and I think there were 4 people there, and they were sitting in a booth, pretty far away in this booth, and so we played our 30 or 40 minute set, and then we're like, all right, thanks to you 4 people in the booth.
Right.
And we start breaking our stuff down, and they go, one more. We're like, no, I'm not doing that. Right. And they're like, but if you play one more, we'll stand up. And we're like, oh man, that you did no.
Right. Really fucking with us.
Packing this shit up. Yeah. So
what was that especially at that point, like was that an outlier, or was that like one of the semi-standards of like smaller shows at that point?
That stands out as being particularly pitiful.
Was there any particular reason? Do you know why it was so small that day?
Well, it seems like Salt Lake City may not have the. Well, it's definitely gotten better for us there. I mean, we actually have really good shows there now.
That's good.
But I just don't think that we had connected to the music scene there. We just and the internet wasn't quite as effective at transmitting your existence. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I think no one knew who we were. I mean,
I mostly ask because I've brought up before, but like I played plenty of those types of shows with like 10 people, 5 people. But I do remember once playing Idaho, and this guy whose name was Bug booked it, and he had booked my old band shows, Orchid, and those shows was fine. But I remember this one we showed up, and I think there were 3 paying because he had put the wrong date on the flyer, and then didn't decide to fix it, and then also went to see Cradle of Filth that night instead of actually like dealing with us.
Right.
And we were on tour with some band from Norway, and they were just like, we're not playing this bullshit. It's like, we don't do this in Norway. And then they proceeded to get trashed and then get up on stage after us and do vocal covers of old Downset songs.
Oh, geez.
Just became a weird mess. But it was also one of those like where it was like semi-middle of winter. Like, we didn't know we were going to stay that night because we were like at that kind of weird in-between where it's like sometimes we have friends.
Right.
Sometimes when you're in Idaho, you're either banking on Bug or you ain't staying anywhere. And then you're doing
hope
that.
One of the 3 people that paid has a house with a couch.
And the nice part is that every one of them bought some merch, which was nice. Did any of them buy merch that night?
I strongly doubt it.
Those bastards. They weren't supporting you.
What can you do?
What did you... do you remember what you did that night for sleeping arrangements?
I don't recall, honestly.
Are you a band that pushes through?
Oh no, actually, I think we stayed with our friend who played in a and one of the few bands that we knew from there.
Right.
I think we
Oh, okay.
crashed
What is your general, when you're like looking for a place to stay, like especially at that point, like what was your tactic? I mean, we all have our circuit of friends there, wherever we're staying, hopefully. But especially at the point where like it's a little bit harder, you don't want to pay off for getting a hotel room, especially if you have a long drive. You don't want to do that 2-hour kind of stay and sneak everyone in.
Right.
Like, did you have a tactic, or do you have currently a tactic to find a place to stay in a random area?
Well, nowadays we have a hotel.
Sure.
You know, we have it budgeted out, so
Right.
we still have roommates. You know,
Sure.
we're not so on our high horse if everybody gets their own hotel room.
Right.
That happens maybe once a tour, and it's a
very
luxury.
nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
I think actually we're all getting our own hotel rooms tomorrow because I think Chris found a hotel that has rooms for $59 each.
Can't beat that.
This is the day to do it.
Right, that's when you grab onto it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a set roommate? Like, do you?
I do. Yeah. David and I bunk up 90% of the time because he and I both snore like crazy.
That's
so
key.
So I'm like, well, let's just put both snores in one room, and then we can saw logs together.
Right.
And I'm a really heavy sleeper, so it doesn't bother me at all. I don't know if I keep him up, but
Right. I was gonna say, is it a competition of who falls asleep first?
Right. Yeah, but honestly, it hasn't been a problem. We get along real well as a roommate team.
You got to find that room. I mean, I think back in the we either had everyone in one room or the rare times of singular.
Right.
And I always chose sleeping on the ground versus sharing anything. Like, because I just couldn't deal with either the snoring, the constant talking in the sleep that one person did, the constant rubbing of feet that another member of my team did.
Yeah.
It was just like a layer upon layer of all these issues that I just couldn't deal with slowly but surely.
Yeah, we used to. I mean, back when we were really packing into a hotel, like get 2 queen size beds, and 5 of us would be in there, just packed in like rats. But I became known as the Snuggle Bandit because I would fall asleep and then I would forcefully grab people and spoon them, and they're like, "God damn it! I am not your girlfriend," or whatever.
Right.
And
I
have no idea this is happening, but apparently it happened so often that there was like either I got the whole bed to myself or I was on the floor because it was really disruptive to other people sleeping.
Right.
Apparently, I was very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, you're snuggling in.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
getting comfy,
Yeah.
man. Before you were even able to get, did you ever have? Because I end up asking a lot of people this. Like, did you have like the go-to person to find a place if you didn't have a hotel room that you could get? Like, was there anyone who was like designated job? Was like, this person's more charming. They can convince someone to crash.
Yeah, I would say probably John's probably the most outgoing and friendly. I'm sort of a curmudgeon, so it's hard for me to put on charm of any kind.
As a fellow curmudgeon, I agree.
Yeah,
I just was just like, I don't want to chit chat.
Right,
Even though I have to like really grease the hands.
I know. It's a big favor to ask.
Yeah.
So.
And in some ways, it would almost be it would be scary to me if someone was too excited to let us stay there. Because the hard part was like they wanted to party usually.
Right. Oh yeah, I've had some of those moments. Boy.
Right.
We stayed this. It was I think it was New Orleans. We played this show, which was real weird. It was lucrative. It was an old band back in the, I guess, early 2000s. Anyway, we played this bar, which is essentially a sports bar for college students. Anyway, but the owner liked punk rock, metal, and that kind of thing. So he would just throw these shows and just put a $5 cover.
Right.
And there was all these college kids who didn't give a shit about the band, but that was the place to hang out. So they're like, fuck, cover, but they paid anyway because they want to play pool and hit on girls or whatever.
Right.
So we ended up playing to probably 100 irritated college students. Like nobody was enjoying us. We were an impediment to their good time. They probably couldn't have. They would have loved a 15-minute set. You know what I mean? I mean, we probably should have just played a 15-minute set. It was ridiculous. We were just taking their money and irritating them. It's getting paid to irritate them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after the show, just two people show up to the show, and it's a couple, and they're looking at the merch, whatever. But our drummer at the time, he was the go-to guy anyway. So this girl comes up and she's looking at the merch, and she's wearing a Melt Banana shirt. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she's like, "Oh well, maybe they're cool or whatever." Right. So we ask them. They're the only people that anything vaguely punk rock or whatever.
Right.
And
they're not wearing a backwards white hat.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not super pissed looking.
Right.
So anyway, we're like, "Can you stay at your house?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, totally." Anyway, so we get there, and they have gotten really drunk by the time we get there. So, and they're drinking malt liquor, like 22 cans of like gnarly, like camo or something. I don't know. It was like, oh Lord, and it got really dark and terrible because they were a couple. They had another roommate. They got in this screaming match. So they were fighting, like sort of throwing shit. We're like, oh man, the place was disgusting. It was just like cans everywhere, and they were fighting, like throwing things. It was really uncomfortable. The guy turned out to be really racist. Perfect. So that was super fun. Correct. And then we're like, what the fuck? How could this completely? I don't know why I thought this was a thing. But I was like, well, how could they like Melt Banana and they're racist? How's this possible? But I mean, sure, it's possible. But anyway, so we're like,
apparently anything's possible.
But then so we're thinking, well, my God. So I don't know. We end up asking her. The gal's like, oh, so when did you get that Melt Banana shirt? Did you see him? Or she's like, yeah, I was at the show. You know, she was like, they left their merch. They left their merch alone, so I stole it. Oh my God, you are despicable. Anyway, so we're like just sitting there. We're like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to sleep. But we just wanted them to go away. So anyway, we were just on this dirty floor, whatever. They finally do pass out, and drummer's girlfriend, who was doing merch for us, she gets in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and she hears something behind her. There's crawdads in the hall, one of which is coming after her.
Oh, like she's like crawdads.
Like a crawdad.
Yeah.
There's
New Orleans, right?
Yeah, that's how it rolls.
So it's crewing, and she's like, so she's, I mean,
you say there's a crew of dads?
Yeah, it's a whole crew of dads. But anyway, so she kind of freaks out. She's like, it's coming at her with pinchers or whatever. She goes to the bathroom, closes the door, and she's like, fuck. What am I going to do about that? She's sitting on the toilet thinking, like, how am I going to avoid the crawdad on the way back to the mat or whatever? Right. And then she looks over the door, and the crawdad's got its claws under the door, like clicking its claws.
Like a horror movie.
Exactly. She was terrified. Right. Anyway, so yeah, we got out of there, and I was just like, that was just the worst ever.
Yeah.
I'd rather slept in a parking lot.
Sure. I mean, there's so many layers there of getting attacked by animals.
Yeah.
As well as getting attacked by human animals to scream at each other.
Human assholes.
Yeah, and just being reminded, oh, right, you're a racist. Cool.
Right.
And a thief of a poor touring band.
Yeah.
Red Fang also got attacked one time. Early on. It was like the first tour that, by the way, I wasn't talking for the first half of this podcast.
Yes, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's not my voice.
I was sitting very quietly the whole time.
Yes.
The first tour that Chris was doing merch for us, we were playing in Arcata, and we brought we had to have a merch guy because we had like some shirts and stuff, and there was some lady who was friends with the opening band. This was like first or second tour or whatever. Right. So playing a little club for like 10 people or something.
Yeah.
And she was somehow just the fact of us having merch for sale just threw her into a rage. And so she was like, every time Chris turned his back, she would destroy our merch. Like she would rip up the stickers or like try to she was grabbing shirts and like trying to run off with them. And he's like, what are you doing? What's your problem? And she was just so upset by the idea of us having stuff for sale.
She was the Fugazi of Arcata.
I guess so.
Was it that? She was like some kind of high ideal?
I wonder, was that what was going on?
I'm not sure. He said that, it was. I don't think it was exactly clear what her ideology was.
I mean, but she wasn't. It sounds like she wasn't rational,
right? No, it was drugs and mental illness.
But
Either or. It was one of the
exactly. But so she got she had a feud with Chris for some reason, and so then we're like, the band that were I don't know if it was the guy putting a show on or the band that was playing with us put us up at their house, and so we're on our way back there. It's not really that far, and as we're pulling up, there's a lady standing in the alleyway that we're pulling into who starts hucking like crushed beer cans at us. And Chris gets out and she's like attacking him, and she has like a whole stockpile of them because she was totally just like, she was waiting in ambush just to attack us because she knew where we were staying, and she was like, I'm gonna fucking get him when they get out.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Literally.
And no explanation ever of like what
It was unclear.
Did they know? Did the person you stayed with have any idea who she was?
I think they maybe did know.
Such a small town. They must.
Right. I mean, that's the great. Like, it's like that's the like. No matter what on tour, you're gonna get punishers. You're gonna get the fucking people at fucking merch tables who won't leave you alone. But then there's also like, yeah, you get into the smaller towns, and it is just kind of even what you're saying with the sports bar, where it's just like it's the thing happening. So you're probably gonna get this extra layer of just like, what the fuck is this person's deal?
Yeah. Right.
Like just constantly. I think that's why I was also like why I'm always asking about who will get the place to stay, but also getting stuck in these places because it's just a constant. Like it's like it is always like odd personalities who don't want to stop partying. There is a lot of animals. Like like I always talk about. Sometime we stayed on some pig farm, like in Houston, that like was just like I could hear the pigs squealing all night. Wow. And then we stayed in like that same tour. This other kid was like, "Yeah, my apartment's real clean," and he just had like 15 to 20 terrariums full of weird crawdaddy. Like he had this one albino lizard that was just staring at us all night, and like I couldn't sleep. I was just like, this fucking thing's looking at us, and just waiting for it to just get out. And I remember like both of those, they both wouldn't go to bed. Like they both were just like.
That's the thing is that I've talked about that with my soon-to-be wife is also a touring musician, and we're talking about like. We mostly stay in hotels now, right? Because we're just too creaky.
Sure.
But they still crash
DIY
like
crash in some people's houses. Jesus Christ.
And she's like, I love it's oftentimes it's usually with friends,
right?
And it's great to see people that you haven't seen in a long time, but you do it every single night as a touring musician, and they do it once a year when the band comes through and they're like super stoked to party till 5. And you're like, I really miss you and I really want to hang out, but I actually just need to go to bed now. So
they don't have to get in a van the next day.
Exactly.
And do the whole thing over again.
But can I tell the story about the Atlanta place with the cats?
That's what I was going to say. He was talking about animals. That's our worst.
It's a perfect segue into the animals. It was the worst. It's hands down the worst lodging situation.
Love it already.
So it was like first U.S. tour we ever did. First U.S. tour I ever did actually was we came out and met the fucking Champs and Birds of Avalon. Mm-hmm. We toured out and then met them in Atlanta at the Earl. And I was crazy sick for like a week leading up to it with just like, it was disgusting. I won't even describe how gross it was. I actually made a videotape of the shit coming out of me the next morning at that house that I'm about to tell you about. So the whole time, we're just like, people offer you places to stay, and we knew that the second we got to Atlanta, because we were opening on a 3-band bill, we knew that we were going to be fucked for places to crash.
Right.
So we were just like asking everybody that we could find, or everybody that we could, if they had a place for us. And the bar back eventually was like, you can stay at my place, but I have to, close the bar, and so you're gonna have to just wait. Right. And so it was like 2 a.m. and he didn't get off work until 4.
Exactly. Yeah,
this is also the first night that a friend of John and David's from Raleigh had come out to meet us, and she's like this very adorable, polite lady that it just seemed like extra sad that we had to put her, like the first night that she joined us was also the first night that we had no place to stay.
Welcome to rock and roll.
Exactly. And so we're hanging out like kind of by the back door for a while, and after about 30 minutes or something, the guy was like, I'm really sorry to do this, but law is we actually have to shut this door. So we couldn't even get into the club to pee or anything, so we're just like huddled on this porch in an alleyway, freezing, even though it was Atlanta.
Right.
Waited till 4 a.m. The guy was like, you can stay at my place. There's like a bed and a couch in the basement, and there's a couch in the living room, but my housemate has a cat, so you don't really want to sleep on the couch because the cat like poops on the couch.
Sure.
I was like,
Of course.
well, yeah, but you just clean the poop off, right? So why didn't we just sleep? Whatever. Okay, whatever, weirdo. So we start following this guy in his truck. We're like, he's in a pickup truck, and we're right behind him, and we're all looking at it, and we're like, is that truck? Is their gate like their tailgate? Is it a rope? Or I think that his whole truck is being held together.
By a rope, yeah.
There's a rope.
There's a rope that went on the
That went all the way around the whole truck.
It was keeping the truck together.
I can fix it myself. It'll be fine.
It was so rusty that he was just like, oh, fuck it. Rope around the truck. And of course it ended up being 45 minutes
Of course.
outside of Atlanta. So now it's like 5
Was
in
at
the
least the way you were going to go the
morning.
next
I
day?
can't
or-
remember about
I'm
that.
sure it wasn't.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
that's usually the equation.
So we get there and discover why it was that he didn't think that anybody should sleep on that couch, which is that it wasn't that the cat had shat on it once and then somebody cleaned it up. It was that it was the cat's litter box. The couch was completely covered in shit.
It was a couch in spite of poop.
And the cat was on the couch.
Right.
Just hanging out.
And they told us the name of the cat before we arrived. The cat's name was Mongoloid. Like, that's a weird name for a cat. And he said, yeah, cat's kind of messed up.
Right.
Anyway, so we get there, and the cat's head is kind of dented in. It looks it's like
Mongoloid.
It's kind of dented sideways. Like one eye's lower than the other, and he just looks. It's a character.
messed up,
yeah.
It's a fucked up cat. Yeah. So anyway, but that was not his wasn't his only cat litter box.
Right.
The whole fucking house was just crazy.
There, we went down into the basement was where he was putting us, and there was like a couch with just piles of just crap everywhere around it, and behind it I was like, well, there's some room here. I can just set up my pad and like just lay down my my little nest behind the couch. That'll be fine. And then came to find that there was like a mountain of cat shit that was probably 2 feet across. So just a cone of cat turds.
Which is the nice part of tour. You think like going on a lot of punk tours, you've seen the worst of humanity.
Yeah.
And then people can surprise you
Yeah.
with new ways
I
of
guess that's
cat
not
shit.
that uncommon. I mean, people,
Right.
there's tons of hoarders. A lot of people
Yeah.
who
Yep.
live in abject filth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were definitely hoarders too. I mean, it was like walking. It was one of those you had to walk through trails in the house. There were just piles of crap and like unclean dishes everywhere.
But the basement also had random shit, so we were just going to sleep on the floor. And I remember, I don't know why, it was because maybe the light switches on one side of the room, we wanted it to be dark, so
Right.
but we were walking through dark flashlights, or phone flashlights, just trying to get through, not to step on shit. And then we found a space for like just as wide as your mat, but if you roll off your mat, you're definitely rolling into shit. It was terrible. And anyway, so we do sleep there, and then wake up the next morning, and it is the most surreal thing ever. There's like some pop music going upstairs. We go up there, and it's just like, God, it's a fucking war zone in here. Like the sink in the bathroom was like hanging off, and I was like, Jesus Christ, it's a disaster. Anyway, the bathroom door opens, and there's this gal in there. She's listening to pop music, putting her makeup on, and she's the most normal-looking, like sorority girl,
yeah,
like
totally.
completely like clean clothes, like 100% put together. And if you saw her on the street, there is no way you would believe that she lived there. But apparently she did, and did not seem fazed in the least.
No, not at all. She wasn't like, oh God, this is so. She was like, just walked through the kitchen and did her shit.
I mean, that's the thing. You try to do the math. It's like with the Milk Banana shirt, but like we've definitely, like I remember playing in Eureka, like on an off day with High on Fire, and we were like, we're stuck. We got to find someone, and we found a guy and was like, he looks really clean cut. Like, why would his house be literally just a squat with like 10 filthy mattresses and a bunch of like Liberty Spike punks making out like on piles of pepperoni? But as soon as we got there, we're like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
like, this is too much.
It was like an Escape from New York set.
Right. I think that's like, so that like also speaks to like, too, like I know like as we got older and touring, like it felt like the punk circle got smaller and smaller. Like it was like we had our set friends who we could go to certain places, but like it just like got harder and harder to be like, well, we're the old guys who are gonna need to crash on your couch,
right?
And so that always made it just an extra layer. But like I think also like, so are there certain things, I know like obviously like hotel rooms, you're just like, I gotta do this, but like as you're kind of getting older and touring, Like, I know I had to make these kind of like concessions to make it more comfortable because you can deal with so much shit, so much cat shit. When you're younger, like, are there kind of like ways you've adapted as time marches on, but bands continue?
I mean, really, hotels is the main thing. I think
Right.
we're lucky in that we've gotten to a point where a lot of the times we get to play in places like this where they have, you know, you can ask for kombucha on the rider and you get it and
Right.
stuff. You know, like, it used to be, holy shit, we got 12 beers. That's awesome. You know,
Right.
we're just lucky in that we can actually get some of that stuff. And
Right.
and that it's available all around the country.
Right.
So
Right. Which is a big difference. The fact that a lot of things are just now more available. Like, you don't have to search out stuff as much.
Right.
The
Like
things
there's there's a place we played in Las Vegas that there's like a hippie convenience store that was just, you know, a block away.
Right.
So it's just way more accessible than it used to be.
Right. I mean, do you have like do you bring like you mentioned a mat? Are there like, because like I just wouldn't like think through like those little things for some reason. Like of like, why don't I bring a sleeping mat? Like,
Well,
why don't
I
bring-
grew up camping, so I've been bringing a sleeping mat since
That's
the
the
beginning
key.
of tour. So, and actually, I even brought one the first European tour we did. I brought
Right.
like stuffed. I have a real small one. I stuffed a sleeping bag and a mat in my bag for Europe, which turned out to be completely pointless.
Right.
But it was
Right.
all right. No, I did. I actually used it the very first night
Okay.
because I was actually ready for bed at like midnight, so I slept on the stage of the bigger venue that
Right.
night.
Which is the big difference in Europe versus America. Like most
Yeah.
of the time, it's like even on the lower level, like when your like shows are small, you'll have somewhere to stay.
Yeah, you have
The
actually you're
squats are
more
nice.
likely to have a place to stay in the smaller
Yeah.
venues there.
Yeah, they generally have sleep.
Right.
More often than not, it seems like they have sleeping accommodations in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I stayed in nicer squats than hotels
Yeah.
in places. Like
Yeah.
where like, oh, you've got it.
Yeah,
there.
squat has a connotation that doesn't always apply.
No,
Yeah,
Squats
not at
are
all.
it just means that people have moved into a space and the city is not throwing them out because they're doing,
Right.
they're benefiting the city. They're
Right.
Yeah.
improving the arts thing. So they have these actually really nice places.
Yeah.
You know, and they can afford to fix them up because they don't have to pay rent.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so-
Like I remember we played Switzerland in one that was like the best. Like it was
Yeah.
just like they made so many meals, but the only problem was we were the only band that played, and we were a grindcore band basically. So they were like, "You must play a long set," and I was like, "Oh boy, I don't know what that means." Like it meant every single song we know, and then jam out the two long songs.
Playing half speed.
Yeah, I mean, we found every way around it.
Right.
When
Just
you're
playing with different keys.
right, they won't know.
Yeah.
Or you use it. My friend in Panthers used to teach me the trick of writing quick punk songs with just pick phone numbers.
Okay.
You just go 230-230-4014-4014. You can shit out a bunch of songs if
That's
you
a
need to
great
fill
idea.
in time. So when you're on tour, what is your go-to for trying to find food? Like, because that's always a big thing on tour. Is like how shitty just fucking eating can be sometimes.
I think in the U.S. it can be difficult. I think you're pretty good about shopping and stuff and having food that's not gross.
Yeah.
But
Plan
I
ahead.
I just
Bring a small cooler.
Yeah.
yeah, we have 3 coolers in the van.
We do
on this
have,
one. It's
yeah.
getting crazy. But yeah, we eat a lot of fast food because
Yeah.
in America it's just, you know, fine dining does not really happen right off the highway.
No.
Almost ever. So
No, it does not.
so I eat a lot more Taco Bell than I care to admit.
Yeah.
I'm admitting it.
Yeah.
I love
You don't
it.
care to, but you
I
will.
will.
still.
I will admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my usual go-to, was getting stuck because as of slowly the one vegetarian in the band too.
Yeah.
It was the extra layer of like everyone else can go anywhere,
Right.
Even if it's shitty fast food. I'm like, I guess I'll just eat Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Or French fries
It's
again.
it's the extra layer. It's the 7 layer. I would imagine for a
Yes,
vegetarian.
exactly. Oh, that 7 layer saved me many times.
Yeah.
Did you ever have like? Now you mentioned New Orleans. Did you ever get stuck eating some terrible meal cooked by either someone you stayed with or?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of punks do. I would imagine.
There wasn't a terrible. I mean,
Spaghetti a lot of
I
times.
eat a lot of spaghetti.
the one that I think was
Beechwood
the most,
Tavern in Cleveland, my least liked spaghetti meal for some reason.
Oh, Beechwood Ballroom. In
Beechwood Ballroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then when you
playing
play
our
a small room,
tour.
every time they would give the same exact meal of like tasteless pasta with 3 string beans. We once ate with Shonen Knife in the same room. We were just like, you don't like it either?
The downstairs.
We were playing the small room.
Yeah.
They were playing the big room.
Oh yeah. It has that downstairs dressing room with the thrift store
Yeah.
next to it.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I do remember that spaghetti. We'll probably have it again pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. Great venue. I just always am slightly bummed when I get that spaghetti.
I think the one that probably bummed everyone out the most was we were playing in Kiev. I don't remember if it was the second or third time, but it was the last time we played there. Maybe this is why. And we got there kind of early, and so the guy who put on the show brought us over to his house and had like a little cookout for us.
Right.
And he didn't speak very much English at all, but there was this kind of guy Igor, which I guess is how you say Igor. He was kind of like translator host or whatever, because he put on the first couple shows that we played there. And he was just like explaining what the different things were that were being served to us. And the one that really was the worst was, it's this type of like Ukrainian bacon thing. It's like, I guess it's their version of prosciutto, or their attempt at prosciutto or something, but it's like, it's cubes that are probably, an inch and a half on a side, and it's like not cured the same way that prosciutto is. It's like way more like rubbery and just kind of like, eating raw pork, kind of. It's like, kind of salty. It was pretty gross, and I had like 2 or 3 of them out of politeness. Yeah. Because Igor was like, this is like a delicacy of the Ukraine, and he like, there was a huge pile of it, and he's like, he went the extra mile to like really treat you guys well and host you, and everybody was kind of like, and spitting it out, because it was gross.
Yeah, I mean that is the hard part, when you're like, they are doing something nice for you, but
so I just ate a shitload of pickles to chase it.
I just mostly, I probably brought up on the podcast before, but when you said North, it was like, maybe it was in somewhere in Louisiana, but we stayed at some kid's house, and they decided to make some elaborate punk stew that had like so much like textured vegetable protein, all this stuff in it, but like there was straight up like a plum just floating in it, and like I just like, and then like he was like, this guy was real surly, and he's like, I mean, and you should probably give me money for this thing, and I was just like, whoa, hey, and I got really jerky with him. I was just like, no dice, man, not happening. Like, and I just ate a bag of Doritos for my dinner, because I'm just like a curmudgeon and real angry about that plum. That fucking plum was just staring at me the whole time.
Weird.
But he really treated it like he was making us this like the best delicacy that you could get in Louisiana. So I think like we were talking before, talking about getting older, playing, but also like being away from home. Then this is something like in touring that's on my mind a lot lately, because I have a new kid.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 17-month-old kid, and I'm just trying to figure out what that means in my life. Like, how do you all kind of deal with like the being away, like as like kind of life continues while the tour continues?
Yeah. Brian?
It's a lot of extra work for my wife when I'm gone, so so I feel bad about that. But I think the major issue that I have when I'm on tour is getting a dog walked. So we have to find dog walkers, which is obviously doesn't hold a candle to having a child.
Sure.
Which I'm,
And getting the child walked is
very hard.
It's super expensive.
Yeah. I mean, that shit adds up. Like, it's like those extra costs that like you don't think about going into like, tour is fun, but also like the dog needs to be walked. Like even that, like that would be something always like I'd be checking in. Right. I'd always be checking in on my wife and be like, is George okay? Like the dog, like were you able to get him out? Was he able to hear? Like, it's like while we're in the middle of moving equipment, I'm like super concerned with that, and then think about how to cover those bases. Because it's like trying to do like moving chess pieces when you're hundreds of miles away too. Like you'd want to still weirdly be a part of it.
Yeah.
How do you get?
It's tricky. I have a 9-year-old, so he was born pretty much right at the start of when we started touring a lot.
Right.
And it's just real hard. I mean, in the beginning, I got super stressed out about trying to Skype with him, every other day or whatever.
Right.
Now that he's older, he's just not into it.
Yeah.
So it's super hard leaving because he's like way more expressive about how sad he is that I'm leaving, and that he doesn't want me to go.
Right.
And then once I'm gone, like at the beginning of this tour, he actually had kind of a panic attack, and I had to talk him down because he started school right at the same time that I started this tour, and so it was like me leaving and school starting was just too much. So, but then after he kind of gets used to it, it's like I understand it's just too hard. I think it's almost worse for him to talk to me because it's like a reminder of not being able to hang out. And he's like quoted, there's a part from that movie Big Hero 6 where like the kid he's all depressed because his older brother got killed, and then he's like at home just depressed, and his friends are all talking to him on the computer, and they're like, oh, I wish we could come through the screen and give you a hug. Right. And my son has said that to me a few times like after that movie came out. So we don't do it as much. We don't like Skype or anything as much because it almost kind of makes it worse.
Right.
We just try to talk on the phone as much as possible. We used to use a thing called Monster Messenger, which was this like safe messaging program for kids. Okay. But it just something happened with Facebook and it got killed, so it doesn't exist anymore.
Much like most things with Facebook,
like right at the beginning of this tour,
right?
So that kind of sucked. And then like with my soon-to-be wife, we just basically text constantly because I feel like staying a part of the like your daily shit that's how you maintain the sort of like normalness of a relationship. I think that there's a lot of research about like people who are basically in physical proximity tend to be, that's what makes friendships. It's not necessarily that you have like, you're going to have shitloads of stuff in common with all kinds of people. Right. It's the people that you're actually spending time with because you're close to them. So since we have to be apart, we just make ourselves like electronically close.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You have to kind of manufacture it to some extent. And
she's also a touring musician, so we both get it, and we both get real moody sometimes. But that's just part of we always know how to work through it. That's just part of what it takes. So
I mean, does it end up affecting like? Obviously, it does, but like a decisions on like, okay, we'll go for this amount. Like
I think it affects me more than anybody else. I mean, I think that I'm the one in the band that is like, hey, I would love to tour like 3 months out of the year. Right.
Yeah.
But it's also this is our income. So
yeah. I mean, that is the hard when it's like it's like your job too. Like it's like the thing that kind of covers. But like because I have that even on the like my band currently, we don't play as much. But like sometimes I think they're even like, oh, well, Geoff has a kid, so we probably can't do this or do this. And I'm just like, no, don't blame me. Yeah. Like I mean, I can figure it out. We can do the math here.
We definitely did a fuckload of touring for the first like 6 years of Nico's life. So it's started slowing down a little bit recently, but I think it's also partly because we do more fly-ins, so we get a little bit more money now than we used to. So
I think a big chunk too is like when I first was having the kid, I was texting, you're on tour with Big Business, and I would text Jared from Big Business all the time. Like and he would he was like one of the best at just like giving me advice here. And I would like remember our first show, like I was just like, so how do I do this? Right. Like how do I like wrap my brain around that we're going to be gone for this and this? Yeah. Because it's just the growing pain. I mean, that's part of just like like with any at any point in your life with a band, it is hard when there's all the kind of moving pieces in it anyways. With all this stuff though too, this is kind of a separate thing. Like, do you, we kind of mentioned journaling before, we were kind of talking about like, how do you do you document this stuff in your brains at all, or does it start to feel like a mush, like of touring? I mostly again ask like now in retrospect I wish I had more because it feels like I'm having a hard time piecing it together of what tour was what.
Do mostly like electronic records. Like I'll just basically put little stars of all the places we've been. Right. And I have an unusually good memory for all of that stuff. So if I can even just see like the name of a club or like what buildings were around it on the Google Map thing or whatever, and be like, oh yeah, that's that show where like my toe was messed up and blah, I can. So, but I'm weird in that way.
Sure. No, I'm the same way. I mean, the visual memory. Like, if I just see, like, oh, right, yeah, that one. That's where that guy tried to fight us or something.
Right. It's starting to become a little bit more of a mush. You know?
Right.
I would say, actually, for me, people are way more of a mush than places.
Sure. Yeah. Do you feel the same, like, or do you just kind of ride it?
I am the opposite of Aaron. I'm terrible. I mix and match pretty much every element of a show.
Right.
What bands, what the green room looks like. I'll imagine a club that is. I'll imagine the facade of a club, and imagine it's in a different city. But then I got the interior. The interior that I imagine will be from a different club.
Right.
And the green room that I'll remember, and I'll put it. It'll be a fourth club. So
Right.
I put 4 clubs into the wrong city.
You're doing you have collages in your brain.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you also have been on tour like way longer than I have, so that might have something. Because you're so much older than I am. No, because you started in your teens.
That's
right?
true. I did start.
I was 30 the first
18
time I went on tour.
So, but no, I think it's probably because my lifestyle. I'm
Sure.
I don't know. Well, also, I think I was looking through some old paperwork, like I did these whatever it was examined. My brain was examined when I was in like 4th.
You had your head
grade.
examined?
4th and 5th grade.
Was it right after your grandma was like, you ought to have your head examined? Because you were drinking a bottle of water.
Fine, I will. No, but they said that just like IQ and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
the one note that they had for my parents was he seems to have difficulty with spatial orientation,
Uh-huh.
which I agree. I
Right.
do have a little bit of problem with that.
Right.
Yeah, and that I think ties perfectly in with not remembering the interiors of buildings.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't just. It's just like there's a ton of shit.
Sure.
Memories are floating around, but I can't
can't glue
put
them
them together.
I mean, the hard part is, though, too, it's like, honestly, like, especially, like, you go to Europe and you'll just be like, oh, right, I'm in a club that looks like I could be in America sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like,
don't-
all of a sudden you're in the bar and you're like, it's a bar. Like, that smell, that sensory smell of, like, a bar that hasn't necessarily been cleaned yet
Right.
drives me kind of nuts.
Old beer.
Old
Yeah,
beer
exactly.
smell is just like, oh, it's
like
the
syrup
same
mixed in
anywhere.
with beer is
Yeah.
Or one of my least favorite is old beer mixed with a cleaning agent.
Okay,
Yeah.
Like it's like I know that you mopped, but it didn't take.
I mean,
it
one of
still
the worst.
stinks in here.
I remember once, like, I used to go see shows at the Rat in Boston, and
This
like,
sounds like a classy joint.
it was most. This is how classy it was. Is the sewer pipe busted once, and it was for like a Godflesh show. So their answer was, "We'll just put kitty litter down."
Oh
my God.
Before the show started. So imagine just that stench of that old beer.
Open sewer.
And then skinheads moshing the Godflesh, and it's just becoming like a tornado of kitty litter.
Oh, it's just on the dance floor?
Yeah, like because it was right in the middle of right in front of where the stage would be.
Fucking
Nothing but
gross.
bad ideas. Nothing but bad ideas. So these were amazing stories. Watch out for staying with couples. They're the worst. They'll just fight.
Yeah.
To wrap it up, the question that I ask everyone to end these: what do you think of the word gig?
It's pretty jamming.
It is
I think it's, I don't know, it's fine.
I like saying concert. It makes my wife crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Concert blues.
Yep.
Right.
Let's go down to the concert. She's like, it's not a concert. You're going
I
to
do.
the bar.
That's like, yeah.
It's still a concert. It's like 2 or more people playing
Yeah.
music
Together.
Together.
In
Yes.
concert.
In concert.
By definition, they are playing in
So
concert.
I say I'm going to the concert.
Perfect.
Pretty much for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I don't use it as much as you do, but I do appreciate it and wish I tried to use it for a while, but it just doesn't flow off my tongue the way that I want it to.
I kind of like how it doesn't flow.
Yeah,
It's kind of slightly awkward.
Right.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And it makes my wife crazy.
Best of both
Yeah,
worlds.
exactly.
I guess I just I don't know. I'm fine with gig.
I
I don't ever use it.
Where did it come from?
Sounds like a
I don't-
jazzy term.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I've always had is like depending on who the guest is. Like if I think usually if it's like someone from like super punk background, it's like no, it was a show. Like I would always call them shows.
Right.
And then if it's just like a straight up just like metal band or comedian, it is definitely a gig.
Well,
Right.
maybe a gig is
Gig feels almost like a job.
Yeah,
like
so
it's a
you're showing up.
regular.
Yeah.
It's a paid engagement.
Yeah.
Right.
I've got this gig. I have
Right.
a standing gig at at Jimmy's.
Standing gig, great bands.
I prefer sitting gigs.
Yes. Ideally, a sitting gig, and when I know exactly what time that gig is happening, so then I can go home and not be at the gig anymore.
Yeah.
I guess it was show when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You play shows.
Do you think that people who participate in eating competitions have gigabytes?
Oh.
Perfect way to end. Thank you so much.